The reason why I don't think storytelling is going to be taken by AI is because the core of a story is the person, the character.
You were working with the CEO of Netflix. You worked with Mel Robbins and Shetty. Do you also find that the element of storytelling is what they needed to get to that next stage?
Let me start by saying, I think personal brand is going to be the future of branding. I was like, why are all these CEOs like starting YouTube channels and podcasts and writing books, right? So why are these billionaires like, trying to be like Logan Paul? And what I realized is because like they see that influence is going to be the most valuable thing in the future. I think 10 years from now, whatever the most influential people say is going to go. People always say data is the new oil. I actually think influence is the new oil.
If somebody wants their financial goal with their business that they're starting or they have started is $10,000, what are the 3 pointers or 1 or 2 pointers you would give to them about understanding sales?
For me, like the first thing you should do is...
Thanks so much for today's workshop. I took away so much of it. And at the beginning of the podcast, I usually like to set a term, and it's around storytelling. I think it's like a hot take for people. And you said storytelling is one thing that's not going to change, even with AI. So can you tell the audience who are early stage entrepreneurs, like why, before even getting to creating your content, before trying to, do all the businessy things, that you should focus on your story first?
I guess, okay, let me kind of elaborate on that first. The reason why I don't think storytelling is going to be taken by AI is because the core of a story is the person, the character. And at the end of the day, like the what makes the story special is like the emotional experience that this character went through, right? And like AI can emulate that, but it can't actually, because AI doesn't have those emotions. It's not able to create a brand new story like a human would. It's kind of like I explain it as, that video game Gran Turismo. Yeah. So the difference between that game and a regular car video game is like you steer left, and it's mimicking the car going left, right? What Gran Turismo did was they created the road, the tires, the wheels, like all the little parts that goes into a car virtually, and they created the car. And when you turn the steering wheel, it's just doing the mechanic of what an actual car would do. And as a result of that, the car will go left. And that's why you can drift, and that's why it's the most realistic racing car. And I think in order for AI to be truly intelligent, I think it has to be like somehow it has to emulate a human brain. Right now, like it has to be almost like a replica of the human brain. It can't be, right now it's not. It's just pretending to be what a human can do, but it's very different, right? That's why I don't think storytelling can be done by robots. Now, the reason why I think the stories are going to be so important, let me start by saying, I think personal brand is going to be the future of branding, because we're already starting to see it. Like when we work with Mark Randolph, I was like, what's going on? Like,
for those of people, listeners who don't know who Mark Randolph is.
Mark Randolph is the co-founder of Netflix, and he wrote a book, and he hired us like to work on his personal brand. And he was like the second kind of CEO, ex-CEO. Like we worked with another CEO before, and I was like, why are all these CEOs like starting YouTube channels and podcasts and writing books, right? I was kind of, and around the same time, I noticed like Kevin O'Leary is doing it and like all of that, right? So why are these billionaires like, trying to be like Logan Paul, right? So, and what I realized is because like they see that influence is going to be the most valuable thing in the future. Like people always say data is the new oil. I actually think influence is the new oil. And I think what you see with Kylie Jenner and like Kylie Cosmetics, and what you see with Mr. Beast and Feastable, these are just little preview of what's to come in the future. I think 10 years from now, whatever the most influential people say is gonna go.
And I noticed you said before, like in your when you were running your agency, you were working with people, not only like the CEO of Netflix, you worked with Mel Robbins and Shetty along where they were at the moment. And so do you also find that like the element of storytelling is like what they needed to get to that next stage?
Yeah, I mean, though everyone you just mentioned are just masters at storytelling, and they're just not like what I was telling you before, right? What I did was I looked at what the greatest storytellers do, and I kind of reverse engineered and try to see the pattern and what are the things that they're doing, right? But I think a lot of these people, they're like instinctively good storytellers, and they automatically understand what people want, and they're just people like that, and,
That's really cool. And again, this is a podcast right after the workshop, so we are going to dive into the pricing of how to price as a person, as a freelancer, as an agency, as well as sales. But before we get there, I want to talk about your heart journey of how you decided, like you mentioned it a bit at the workshop of like you're running your agency, but your heart was actually in like helping your employee get to the next level. Yeah. So can you share that story with us? And like, what made you pivot or not pivot, but like add on to what you're doing from the agency to now doing the Night Owl?
So, I mean, I've always wanted to work on my personal brand because I saw that this is kind of the future. So but I haven't jumped in yet. I was like, okay, one day I'll start putting out content.
What year was this?
This was like, I started thinking about it in 2018, and I actually started putting out content in 2020, right after like COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
But, one of the things that I realized I didn't realize it until later, but when I actually started putting out content and started coaching people and stuff like that, I realized like teaching is my passion. Teaching is where even within my agency, the part that I loved the most was just like mentoring and training people and things like that. And what would usually happen is that if I hire somebody who's kind of like fresh out of college, or they're kind of like, junior people, I would usually throw like a project at them, like a small project that they don't think that they can do. That it seems impossible to them, but not like completely out of reach. Right. So they're like, it's called like the proximal zone of development. Okay. So if it's like too easy, like it's boring, so they don't want to do it. If it's like it feels impossible, they're like, oh, I'll never do it, so they don't do it. So where people develop the most is, it can't be too easy but too hard. So I would usually so a good example is like if I hire like a junior developer, I will give them like a contact page where they have to create a form where they just submitted something, and then it just gets inserted into the database, right? Kind of, like a regular contact form. And website, right. I would, but this is like back in the day, so I would have them do it from scratch. And they're like, they have no idea like how to do it, or they'll create the form and then they'll be like, but they don't know how to connect to the database. So I'll give them like some basic instructions, and I'll be like, oh, take a look at, read this article or something like that.
Like a library of documents. Yeah.
Or like go to like, send them like a link to like Stack Exchange or something, Stack Overflow or something like that. Yeah. And then they'll get stuck, and then I'll check in a couple of days. We're like, okay, did you try using this query, or did you try doing this? And then they'll get through their hurdle. Yeah. And then usually by the end of the week, they'll figure it out. And what at that moment, something magical happens, because at that moment, something they thought they couldn't do, they did. And they did it with barely any help from me. Like they did it on their own, right? Like, yes, I kind of give them a hint here and there, but they know. And something clicks at that moment where they get this surge of confidence. And they feel like, oh, anything I throw at them from now on, I'll figure. I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. Something like that. So what I realized is that once they have that moment, that aha moment, I can throw at more stuff, and then the rate of development just exponentially grows from that point on. And it's amazing to see. And I like when I see that smile on their face, we're like, oh yeah, shit, I did this or whatever. So I got so much joy from that, and I started feeling the same kind of joy when I was coaching people and teaching them storytelling and things like that.
Right.
So that's why I realized, I actually think I was meant to teach. You know?
Did you become a better business owner now that the soul activity was being more fulfilled on that end?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I enjoy building Night Owl Nation way more than
Building your agency.
working on my agency. Sorry, clients.
The truth comes out. So I think one of the questions that a lot of the audience members are thinking about is, how do I, so this is a person like I mentioned to you, like they're about to launch or begin their business, and they're thinking about, how do I price first? How do I get my first client? Mm-hmm. And then how do I price it in such a way that I don't literally kill myself doing the work, but it is fulfilling, but it gets the job done, and there is enough profit to sort of like overcome. So then, yeah, could you walk us through, I think you mentioned briefly about like,
I think there's many ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the way that everybody else says to do, which I actually think is correct for most people. Okay. So if you're a regular freelancer or whatever, you're a service provider, the first thing you should do is reach out to every person in your role, every person that you've ever contacted, emailed, ever met in your entire life.
Right.
Reach out to every single one of them one by one and say, and create some sort of an offer. And the offer has to be very specific, right? It has to be something like, I build website for restaurants so that they can take orders online. Like something very specific with a very specific outcome, right? If you know any restaurant owners or anything like that, like you're not asking them for business, but you're saying, if you know any restaurant owners who might need this, you know, can you pass on my information or something like that, right? So if you contact every single person you know that you've ever met like that, you're gonna get one client at least, like that, right? So that would be your first client. And then from that point on, you kind of, you know, you use that to reach out to more people. You're gonna get, you know, over time, you're gonna get referred more people, and so on and so on, and so you build it. And I guess you can also make content. You can go on these like Facebook groups or
in the communities,
Reddit communities, or you know, wherever these small restaurant owners hang out, wherever your potential clients are, go there and you know, talk about this offer, right? So that you can get it. That's how I think most people would say, just like it's a numbers game. You talk to 50 people a day, there's no way you're not going to get a client. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the words they should use is, hey, this is like exactly, I build websites for restaurant owners. So like figure that sentence out.
Whatever that is.
And then just
I take photography. I do photography for personal brand that they can put on their website. I do, you know, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. And then ask them for referrals.
I help entrepreneurs create mailing lists, so you know, so they can collect emails, whatever that is, right?
Right.
Facebook ads, whatever your service is, I help blank so and so do this so that they can achieve this, something like that.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And you shared in your workshop that your first client that you got for your agency, you got paid an X amount for 9 months of work.
Yeah. So the way I did it,
and
the way some of you should do it, because there's two types of freelancers out there. There's the ones that, you know, do it to build a business, and there's ones that like me who wants to be one of the best, right? And now, when I say one of the best, I don't mean like build the biggest agency. I want to be one of the best when it comes to like making one of the best websites,
your
right?
Craft.
The actual craft, right? If you're a craftsman like me and you want to keep working on your craft, then no matter what it takes, like get that first project, even if you do it for free, even if you have to pay them to do their websites, so that you can get something on your project, on your portfolio, right? And like what I did actually, like how I got into this business is I did the first 5 websites for my friends just for fun. And I used that to get an internship. And then I got more design experience from there. And I used that portfolio to get a job as a designer. And then, so by the time I started freelancing, I already had like 10 websites on my portfolio.
Gotcha.
And, you know, and still my first project was $1,700 from a friend, which took me 9 months to build.
Which,
Okay.
if you were living on that,
Yeah.
you
No, yeah,
can't.
yeah. I was like living off my savings, right?
Right.
But then the second website was I got $3,000. So there was a baby clothing website, but somebody random saw that baby clothing website, and I put like a link to my website on the bottom of every one of my clients' websites. Somebody saw that and then reached out to me and paid me $3,000, and this time it only took 3 months. But then after that, the next website I did was 10 grand, and then it was 17 grand, and so on and so on. It kept going up from there. So if you're doing really good work in the beginning, it's gonna be an investment in time, for you. But if you build a solid portfolio, you will get clients, because there's a shortage of really talented people out there. Like even for me, if I go out and try to hire a designer or a photographer or whatever it is, like the really talented ones, they're booked up for the next year.
Wow.
They wouldn't even take you. Do you know what I mean? So if you really like focus on the craft and you get yourself to a point where you have a solid portfolio, like people are gonna be like lining up to hire you. So but it just takes like a couple years up front of that.
Couple of years,
Yeah.
not couple months.
No,
Yeah.
couple years.
So some of the advices online would be like, oh, you can be a millionaire in 6 months, but you're like,
You can, not this. Like,
Not this
Yeah,
route.
it's a different strategy. Like it's with the first strategy, I think you can. Yeah.
that's so good. My mind goes to, you said in the workshop, and it's gonna rock us some people. You said you are now getting to a place where
What did I say?
you're now able to charge $200,000 to a client.
Not every client.
Not every client, but there was a client that you were able to charge that much to build a website with, I forgot the
WordPress.
platform, WordPress.
Yeah.
And so I think it boggles in some people's minds. Like,
Yeah.
some people might say just the WordPress for 200K. It's like,
It's like so if when I said that actually on Threads or Twitter, people went berserk on me. They were like, "You're a liar.
You're
There's
scamming."
nobody anyone." Yeah, and you're like, "You're scamming people." Blah blah blah.
what are they missing?
So,
What's that missing
yeah,
link?
I think-
yeah.
People who said that, because there's like some, like maybe 20% of people who said that, and there's 20 people that were like, "Oh yeah, that's like." There's like some people that are like, "Yeah, we charge more than that," but the ones that just don't understand, they get angry, is because they can't fathom the idea of like they're so limited in their mindset that they can't even fathom the idea. Like I once, when I was working at an agency, we once worked on a project where we did they spent $1 million doing a branding project, did all the ads, website, commercial, and then it didn't get FDA approved, that drug, and they just threw away $1 million of work. And it was just the cost of doing business. They spent $1 million knowing that they can easily throw it away, but knowing that also if it does get FDA approved, they're gonna probably make $100 million from it or something like that, right? So it's like companies don't think like individuals, like, oh, $200,000 what for a website? Like that's not how companies think. Companies is like, okay, we have a $400 million budget this year. This is gonna go to websites. This is this is how companies think, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't fathom that thought, obviously you're gonna be like, what? There's no way. But
So do you think
like actually we did a affiliate page, affiliate sales page for Spotify once, and I think they paid us close to $100,000. It was a 3-page WordPress website, and they had it up for a month. It was for a special microsite for a special promotion thing, and then they only had it up for a month, and they paid almost $100,000. So that's just how that's how this world works.
that reminds me of the conversation when you and Neil Patel, the NP Digital, and you were he was talking, because he's all about data, and he said like there's a huge trend of like how so many people spend money on organic content, but the ROI is the lowest, and that these corporations have, even the top like personal branding person like Cristiano Ronaldo or like KSI with Prime, like that compared to what the corporations give is like peanuts.
Yeah.
So do you think it's that missing link of like, is that the missing link of understanding that there's bigger players that wants to get the job done?
Yeah.
So that you can start charging with confidence.
Yeah. So yeah, there's those massive players like, that Neil Patel's talking about. And then there's like the big personal brands who are still, they're really like small potatoes compared to the Coca-Colas of the world, right? And then, but the ones that were leaving those comments are actually even, like they don't even understand this world. Like they think it's crazy that people would even pay, $50,000 for a website, right? So it's I guess there's levels to this shit, And somebody like once told me when I first started out that it doesn't matter if you have all the opportunities and connections in the world. Like if your plate is not big enough, you're not going to be able to receive, and your plate grows over time.
Oh, that's good.
So. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? Like this is some woo-woo.
Yeah, woo stuff.
Yeah. But then like as we started growing, I understood exactly what he meant. Like if somebody came to me and said, we're doing I want you to bid for this $200,000 project, I would have had no idea how to even go about that, how to set up the proposal, how to do the talk, how to price it and things like that.
Yeah. If somebody wants their financial goal with their business that they're starting or they have started is $10,000. What would you, and you had an hour time with them, what are the 3 pointers or 1 or 2 pointers you would give to them about understanding sales when they get on the sales call? And I think you mentioned that a couple of them to me as well, as a beginner who's coming from 9 to 5 essentially.
Yeah. Okay, 2 things. It's a very different thing between generating leads and then closing sales. You need to do both, obviously, right? Yeah. But those are two very different tasks, right? So one of my friends is he's like in real estate sales, and he said that the most underrated skill in sales is organizational skills. And
what do you mean by that?
So I was like, what? What are you talking about, right? And he said the reason why most people can't hit the numbers, it's because like if you look at the top salespeople in like real estate agents or these sales organizations, they're not the rock stars who know how, who walk in and like have the pitch like what's that guy from like Wolf of Wall Street and closed every deal like that. It's not that type of people. It's actually the people that just put in the most work, meaning they call hundreds of people a day. They follow up with hundreds of people a day. And they have all these calendars and all the systems checked. And they're constantly following up. Like they just have a huge pipeline of tens of thousands of people. That's why even if their closing ratio is lower, they're closing way more than these people who thinks they're a rock star, but working with 100 leads.
Right. They try calling 2 people.
Yeah, exactly. So that lead generation, the ones that are willing to do the hard work of lead generation, like sending out those emails, following up with those people, and doing the boring, hard, uncomfortable work, that's actually probably the most important thing if you're doing like outbound sales, right? And then once you actually get in, because like once you generate the leads and you have a prospect and you get in the room with them or get on the call with them, then you have to close them. At least like in our business, right? When you're service business or your coaches or any type of service business, it's too many people just go in and try to sell. Like, but for me, like the first thing you should do is actually I want to get to the no as soon as possible.
No.
Yeah. The first thing I want to do, like within the first like 10 minutes is I want them to say no to me. And the reason why is because I want to make sure, because like there are some clients that I can spend an hour meeting with, like I can spend a month trying to sell to them, and it was a no the whole time. And maybe it's because there's another decision maker who would never hire, or there's like, because of their process, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like some clients, like, like I was never gonna get because the decision maker has a nephew who owns an agency and they were going to give it to them the whole time. If I don't know that, I'm just going to waste my time pitching to this person just to get a no after wasting time, right? So I want to qualify it as soon as I can. So I want to get to the no. And the only way you can do that is by asking a lot of questions.
And it's not you saying no, it's them saying no?
Yeah. Or like,
either.
Or me just telling them if that's the case, if I'm asking them like, okay, can I ask you like what your decision process is like, and he's gonna be like, it's gonna go through there, and at the end the CMO is gonna decide. And can I ask you what the CMO is looking for? Like what is like the criteria? And they're like, to be honest with you, our CMO has a nephew who owns this agency. So like it sounds like it's not going to be a good fit, right? Or if we're selling websites and what they really want is, if I'm selling a website that's very interactive and has all these design elements, what they really want is something launched this month quickly, like
the deadlines.
And under this budget, which is not going to work for us. I'm not going to try to squeeze that in. I'm just going to be like, I don't think we're going to be a good fit, right? And the funniest thing is, every time I turn down a client, every time a client comes, this is
is there a magical thing that happens when you say no?
Yeah. So this is something I realized by accident. So our pipelines kept getting longer and longer and longer to a point where like, we can't start the project for another 3 months, right? So we started telling clients that people would come in and be like, hey, even before we go in the meeting, we'll be like, by the way, we can't even start a project for like, first of all, our minimum engagement starts at 50K, and we can't even start the project for 3 months. Are you okay with that? And people when we started doing that, they were dying to work with us. And I was thinking about that, and psychologically, right? Like, as soon as you hear that from somebody, in your mind, you're going like, wow, these guys must be rock stars. Like, if every other agency is like, oh, we can start tomorrow. And then one of them is like, oh, sorry, we can't start for another 3 months. We're not even going to meet with you. Like, something intriguing happens in your mind. You're like, what? Like, what are they selling? Are they selling some golden goose? Like, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we actually like our conversion rate like went up drastically when we started like telling people that no.
So there you go. Ask in the sales call, you should ask the process, like what's their hiring or decision process. And then ask CMO.
No, you have to ask a lot more questions than that.
Right.
You're
just highlighting the,
Yeah, when I go into a sales meeting, all I'm doing is I want to know everything about this project. What problem are you, like, what's your goal? Is it to get more traffic? Is it to get more sales? Is it to get more traffic to this page? Is it just brand awareness? Like, what is your goal? And like, what is it worth to you to solve that goal? And what are the biggest barriers to that goal? Like, what does your team structure look like? How many people do you have a project manager do you have designers in your team? And are they going to be involved at all? Like, I want to know, like, I want a complete picture of what this project is going to be like. And once I do that, number one, like, now I know exactly how to diagnose the problem and what the solution is. But also just asking those questions. And I'm just asking the questions. I'm just letting them talk the whole time. First of all, if you let them talk the whole time, usually at the end of the meeting, they'll say, son, we've talked to like 4 other agencies, and I feel like you understand us the most. Even though I haven't said a word. Because psychologically, the person who talks the most feels the most understood. And so they're going to say that. Secondly, just because I was asking those right questions, in their mind, they're going like, oh, this guy asked some good questions that I haven't even thought of. I haven't even asked myself, right? So now they're going like, I wonder what other questions he has that's good that I haven't even heard today, right? So there's a lot of psychological things happen when you're just going there and asking the right questions and diagnosing.
That's such a good sales. Because some people, you talk about, oh, you got to know the script. You got to say these things, but you're like, no, ask the question.
I guess like if you're selling at this level where you're doing, it's like a consultative sales.
Right.
where you're actually providing a service. First, you have to know your shit.
Yeah.
But like not everybody can do this. But if you're good at your job and you know how to solve, you're a consultant and you know how to solve your client's problem, you should be able to ask the right questions.
And one of the things I've been watching you for, I'm not to sound like a creep, but I've been following you for a while. And one of the things I really liked about you is your leadership style of like, because there are leaders that are very vocal and like charismatic, that are like, you feel like the pull, but there's another pull that I got from you, which is like it sounds a bit cheesy. It's like a shepherding leading. That's what it feels like. So on that end, I want to say thank you for, I guess, sticking to your gifts and then continually working with that, because it also makes me, and as we talked about it in the workshop, about like finding something that's relatable to you. Not everyone's going to relate with Alex Hormozy and other people, but there's a voice that you put out. I mean, you do have a nice voice. That's another thing too.
Yeah, people always told me like should go into radio. But yeah, like I think my goal is I'm not trying to get a huge audience, right? Even if I get like 0.1% of the audience, that's probably still way more than I need. You know what I mean? Like 0.1% of the audience in this industry is still probably way more than I need. So I'm not necessarily trying to build the biggest audience, but I'm trying to build an audience of people that are like me, that have similar personality to me, that'll resonate with the solutions that I provide. Because that's one thing I told you. Like some people are really coachable, great.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just not a coachable person. So if you're somebody who's not very coachable,
right,
you're probably gonna resonate with me.
Yeah. I wanted to take some time. I have some hot takes.
Okay.
And one of them I shared in the workshop.
Okay.
And I want to see if it's valid from you, because you go through various of levels of content, and I think maybe it's selfish of me to do this, but I think it helps the audience person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So the first hot take is, and I'll use your framework that you said. Most coaches and content creators are preaching you got to be consistent. You don't create content, document content, or like create a container. And I find that those doesn't really work for me. Instead, people should say, help your audience assume their roles. And I mentioned in our workshop, like when you're looking at a photo, you immediately, if I have a baby photo, I become a parent whose baby was recently born. Or even when you're walking into a Home Depot shop, you assume the role of a client rather than, there's a cashier and then you're the client. And so I think that's a hot take, in that the content creator coaches, they are saying the right things, but they're not really getting to the actual surface level of understanding the social dynamics that you want to create. So I wonder, what are your thoughts around that? And do you think there's validity to it?
Yeah, can you give me an example of, like, other than the baby one? Can you give me another example of like the role? Yeah.
So another role is, I used to create when I was beginning my content creation, I was always just in front of the camera, and I hadn't noticed until my coach said, when you're up front, when you're scrolling through, you don't want some like person to be in your space, but rather try to look away, like capture the moment that you're talking with somebody. And so that, rather than being in your face, like you're now becoming the audience member. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it helps me to perspective as the content creator. I've been struggling a lot about like how to create content effortlessly. And I think if I understand what roles I'm trying to give to them, it helps me. Yeah.
Like, so in that case, the role that you're giving to them is the audience member?
Yes. Yeah.
And then who are you?
I am the person sharing the wisdom of what I was talking about.
Okay. But wouldn't that be same even if you were like, doesn't matter how you share it. Like even right now, like this, if somebody saw this, like whoever is watching this is the audience. Like because like what I got from what you said before is like really understanding who this content is for. Like meaning, like I gave you an example before, right? If somebody's like talking about the benefits of coaching, right? Okay, okay, here are the benefits of coaching, but am I talking? Is the person that this is for, are they coaches? Is it for coaches, or is it for students that wants to get coaching, right?
Right.
So in that sense, I mean, I thought that's what you meant, like knowing who you're talking to, who this is for. I mean, the consistency thing, this is what I think. I do think the consistency matters, but not because of like what people think. Because just because you post consistently doesn't mean you're going to grow followers. Right. Like plenty of people post consistently, they don't. But I think it's the bare minimum. it's the price of entry.
Right.
So you have to post consistently first, and then there's a lot of other things you have to do after that too. But at least when you're posting consistently, and then the right after that is. After you post, you go back and you diagnose why something did well or something people resonated and something didn't, and based on that, coming up with hypothesis and trying it again, trying something different next time, and keep trial and error until something works. Yeah. Like that's the second layer, right? But just consistently posting the same thing over and over, that's not going to do anything, you know. So yeah, but I'm sure like part of when you're doing that, you're gonna figure out like all these other things, like assuming the role and all of those things.
That's true. That's good.
I'm still trying to figure out the assuming the role thing, like specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully understand.
I think I need to go back to the drawing table to see how I can word that better too. Yeah. As we are landing the plane here. Where I want to get to is like where you want to take Night Owl going forward. Is it still going to be like a storytelling? Are you going something bigger? I know you came out to Toronto as well as you're going to Texas, I believe.
Yeah, so I've been working on kind of really fine tuning the method that we went over.
The story framework, which I think was brilliant. Yeah.
And then I want to come up with very concrete exercises that people can do consistently, like like that they can use to keep putting into Story Bank over and over and over. Right. So I want to use that to so once that's kind of set and done, I want to really start promoting Night Owl Nation and grow Night Owl Nation. I want Night Owl Nation to be like the community for if you want to get good at storytelling, if you want to really like, I want to just like kind of like what I said about websites. I want Night Owl Nation to be like, if this is the second best storytelling like course or workshop, I want us to be here. Like we want to set ourselves so far, right? And I think we can do that. I think it's just because like I've seen all the other storytelling frameworks and stuff like that. So I think we can do that. And yeah, that's where I want to go. And I guess and here's the thing about storytelling. And I think one of the main reasons is because I think what a lot of people don't understand is that storytelling is not like you learn it and then now you've learned it and one and done. Like it's like, because there's so much overlap between storytelling and life lessons that it's almost like in order to do storytelling properly, and you literally saw it today at the workshop. Yeah. It was almost like half of it was like a live coaching session, right? And in order to do storytelling properly, you really have to, number one, understand yourself, your strengths and weaknesses, and you have to understand how the history of how your life came about affects that. And what are those individual stories? What lessons you learned from it, or what trauma you got from it? Yeah. And then, based on who you are and all of that, how do I move forward? Like how should I do things differently than, like, for example, if I'm an introvert, the way I'm going to build my business is going to be very different from an extrovert, right? Yeah. If you're a very coachable person who's like, okay, give me the lesson plan, I follow.
You mentioned Chris, though.
Yeah, like he's a very coachable person. Right. So he literally told me that he'll follow the plan to the T. Right. Whereas I'm like, fuck that. Okay, I'll try that maybe, but I have to figure it out myself. The way we're gonna build our business is very different. So, I think storytelling is just as much about understanding yourself and understanding life, sociology, psychology, as much as just storytelling for the audience. And that's what we're really doing. And that takes time, that takes practice.
When you also mentioned in our workshop, you said just because you found the story, it doesn't mean you have the story yet. That was shocking to me because I always thought, like I got the story and that was it. But today, throughout the workshop, it was even like more than 6 hours. I understood how much depth I was missing. So there's so much. You're like, it's like a life skill of observing and then making relations,
reflecting and making connections between one story and another story.
Which I find I get awkward during dinner table conversations because I don't know how to relate conversation. But I wondered in today's workshop, if I sat down with Sunny, with you for like Korean barbecue, I think you would just go on with stories after stories. I think it'd be such a fun, but that comes after an observation of like learning how to think the thoughts.
That's actually how my typical dinner goes when I go to dinner with somebody for the first time. Some people for the first time. I was just at a dinner actually last week, and it was like that. Like for 2 hours, we would just get. And it's because that's exactly what I do. Somebody would tell me about what happened or what they're going through. And I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of this time when I did this. And then they're going to be like, oh, yeah. And then, you connect and you keep going.
Right. It's just never ending. Awesome. Where can people find you? And you said the exciting thing you're working on is Owl Nation. Are there any other things you're working on today you want to
I'm primarily working on Night Owl Nation right now. So definitely check out Night Owl Nation. You can find everything on my Instagram, sun.yi, so sun.yi.
Yeah, there you go. And thank you for coming to Toronto. I was really happy to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.